Lots to talk about. Big week here for the Philadelphia Eagles. You are watching Eagles Talk A2D live on A2D Radio. We're going to talk about another big week of moves by Howie and much more. Hop in the chat and join the conversation.
If you love the Eagles, let me get a hell yeah! You love the Philadelphia Eagles, let me get a hell yeah! Philadelphia!
Welcome in, everybody, here on A2D Radio. This is Eagles Talk A2D. I'm Chrome, joined as always by Rob Brankman, Chucks, Pete Evans, OGP82D, my man down there. He's back. Good to see you, Pete. We're happy to have you back, brother.
Good to be back.
Lots to talk about this week, guys. We had a huge week last week. We were here for the first day of tampering period, and a lot's been done since then, aside from Saquon, Barkley, Bryce, Huff, and others. So we're going to discuss all those moves. We're going to welcome, as we do every week, our weekly guest, Les Bowen, who's going to come on at 9:15, and we're going to have Bowen on the birds. But first, let's show a little love to Baggio's Bread, located in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. You could find them, or you can stop in, let them know A2D sent you. All in-store purchases, 10% off. Go in, show them some love, enjoy some great tomato pie, stuffed breads, and lots of good food they have there at Baggio's Bread. But guys, another week coming in. We addressed quite a few positions, safety, linebacker, some other positions, third wide receiver at this point, finally. We're going to discuss all that. So, with our opening topic of conversation, and we already see some people in the chat, and we appreciate you guys. Drop your comments in. We want to know what your thoughts are on the Eagles signing of Devin White. Does it make perfect sense in terms of the fit, need, and the contract? Do you agree, disagree to this statement? Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, X, whatever you call it. Let's hear your comments. Let's talk about it. Rob Brankman, kick us off here, buddy. Devin White, the signing here was a little bit questionable for some people. What are your thoughts on this signing, and is it the right fit for this team?
Not from me. I mean, me and Chucks, we had a show with just the two of us a couple weeks ago. I mean, he was a linebacker that I identified as would probably be cheap, probably wouldn't be returning to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with all their free agents that they had to take care of that are just simply better than Devin White. And the bar is not very high here in Philadelphia from a linebacker position. I know there's going to be a lot of people in the chat that say, oh, he's not a cover linebacker. But, cover linebackers don't grow on trees. Cover linebackers are generally called safeties. So if you're looking for your linebacker to match up with a premier tight end or a premier running back out of the backfield, probably 8 times out of 10, you're going to be super disappointed unless you have a stud like Fred Warner. Fred Warner was not a free agent. The San Francisco 49ers and teams that have cover linebackers aren't going to let him go. But Devin White, he seems to have a nose for the football. He's only 26 years old. It's one of my most interesting trends that I noticed during free agency was the amount of, 24, 25, 26-year-olds that were hitting the open market. So he's young. He's relatively cheap. He addresses a need. I don't understand what the beef is with Devin White. I think he's going to be a terrific signing, especially for the value that you got him for. He's going to start for a $7 million price tag, and he's a huge upgrade over Cunningham, Shaq Leonard, Nick Morrow, and all those just complete baggage claim linebackers that we had last year that got exposed each and every week after the Niners beat the Eagles' brains in. So I don't understand what the beef is with Devin White. I guess people will tell us in the comments, in the chat, but I like it.
Yeah, and if you do like it, throw a like on there. Throw a thumbs up and drop your comments. And if you don't like it, again, let's talk about it. We want to hear your opinions on this. Chucks, what's your view on Devin White, the newest linebacker for the Philadelphia Eagles?
So in terms of need, obviously, the linebacker was one of the biggest needs. In terms of contract, his contract and the details, specifics of White's contract, I think it was around $4 million. With he can earn extras with incentives, so that's very cheap. So I have no problem with that. But in terms of scheme fit, it's a hard no. He does not fit traditionally what a Fangio scheme, asks of its linebackers. Devin White, he's the type of linebacker, and I think it was Emmanuel Acho, who made this pretty good comparison for Eagles fans. It's similar to his play style is kind of similar to a Michael Kendricks in terms of just play style. He plays fast, he's athletic, he can run all over the field in terms of, hey, you go see ball, go get ball. All right, that's Devin White. So if you were in a scheme kind of like Mike Zimmer's scheme, where your linebackers are always attacking downhill and they have that front creates a lot of space for them, then he would have made perfect sense for that type of scheme. For Fangio's type of scheme, where it requires you to diagnose a lot more, requires you to be in coverage a lot more, requires you to kind of be smart, take on some blockers too, because of how we do our fronts. We run that 5-man surface or 3-man surface. That doesn't really fit what Fangio really traditionally does. Now, if it's Fangio, like said to Howie, said, I can make it work, then I have no problem with it. If he thinks he can make it work, then that's all that matters. But from an analysis standpoint, from a fan and us and analyzing the fit from the outside looking in, it really does not make sense. And I beg to differ, Brinks, when you say coverage linebackers, they don't grow on trees. Like, I'm not saying they're abundant, but there were intriguing names that I constantly mentioned that would have fit better in terms of scheme. Jordan Brooks was at the top of my list. Jerome Baker, familiar with Fangio's scheme in Miami. And then another linebacker that was cut by the Packers a few days ago before we signed Devin White was Devondre Campbell, another guy who traditionally was good in coverage. So there were names out there that I would have been good with, that could have given you adequate enough play at linebacker. They didn't go for that. We got Devin White. I have my doubts, but we will see what happens.
I'll just go, Crum. You only have to interject. I got this one.
Go at it, buddy. Jump in.
It's shocking to me how fast we come from what we had last Monday and how the free agency started to this one signing, and now we have this poll question, and we're literally talking about $3 million, $4 million that can be escalated through incentives. And this is the signing that has everybody not so much in an uproar, but people choosing sides and on what side of the fence are you on, right? Where Chuck's mentioned Jordan Brooks, mentioned Devondre Campbell. Devondre Campbell's 30. I'm not sitting here saying I'm all in on Devin White. I'm not on that side. But I just think we have to temper what we look at, right? They prioritize what they prioritize. Jordan Brooks got 3 years, $30 million, right? They weren't doing that. They're not going to do that. I think one of the reasons they would sign him over Devondre Campbell is the fact that he's 26, where Devondre Campbell's 30. So I think they still see something left. Here's the thing: everybody's saying that he can't do this, he can't do that. You didn't have it on your roster in the first place. It wasn't in the room. So you got to keep throwing darts at the board. Jerome Baker may be the only one where I really feel like, okay, because I don't think he signed anywhere yet, if I'm not mistaken.
I think he did.
You think he did?
His signing came after Devin White.
Right, but I will say this: as far as he doesn't trust his instincts well enough, sometimes Devin White, especially when he sees his odds with run coverage. But when he commits. He's a great blitzer. That's really what Todd Bowles is using for in Tampa Bay. It should have showed you something where Tampa Bay chose to re-sign the 34-year-old Levante David versus a 26-year-old Devin White.
Yeah.
So this is kind of that move that he's betting on himself. So if there was ever a year where he was going to really try to put it all together, it's this year, and it's going to be in the Eagles' midnight green. So that's a good problem to have. Where we going next year, where we going towards the draft, one of the things that we like about free agency coming before the draft is you can kind of fix all these things, right? But you're not going to fix every need that you have. The defense was so depleted from what it was in the Super Bowl, right? We lost 2 of our linebackers, Edwards and Kaiser White. You can't hammer every nail in. This is just something that you could do now that frees you up when you get to the draft, and maybe another thing happens here or there. I kind of agree with the poll. Doesn't think he's the perfect fit. He's definitely a need that we had. And we were kind of sitting here talking about this amongst ourselves. Like, okay, we're signed Chauncey. We signed Saquon. We're doing all this. We're re-signing Sweat. Where else is coming next? And then, like, all these linebackers are getting blown off the board. And I would say coming into the free agency, linebackers probably is the most depleted position because you didn't even have someone that started for you the year prior possibly returning. outside of Nakobe Dean, and you still, that's a question mark. That's that candy bar when you get on Halloween, you call it whatchamacallit, because you don't know what Nakobe Dean gonna be. We still don't know yet. So this kind of, it's a very, very, very small band-aid on a very bigger issue. But to, like Brink said, to the fans out there, coverage just covers that. How many linebackers in the league who are getting paid well or making $3 million can truly cover? And that's where, like you said, Chucks, the scheme with Fangio, if they see something, now you upgrade your safeties. If there's another shoe to fall, and we sign Justin Simmons, I really don't care who you have at the linebacker position at that point.
Yeah, I mean, because of Justin Simmons.
Yeah, you got two safeties that can set the field. Doesn't matter. But this is where if that's their next move for them, right? That's where this signing, we don't put as much weight on it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And I've said, I think that this is a position where they're going to address this in the draft. And my gut tells me early, you know, I talked about this on Wednesday night on A2D Wednesday nights, that I believe, like, we could throw out it's not their MO thing, because they already proved that going out there and picking up Saquon Barkley this offseason, that at this point, after last year and that collapse, nothing's off the table. So I think when you bring in two coordinators like a Kellen Moore, and you bring in especially a guy like a Vic Fangio at his age, where, you know, coming here to be a yes guy and just fill a slot just doesn't seem like the MO for a guy like him with his experience and success. I would have to think he has some say. So, you know, if Devin White's brought in, I'm sure he was consulted on that. How can you use him in your defense? And I like the youth, what Rob touched on. I like that they're bringing guys in their mid-20s, you know, late 20s, you know, kind of early, late 20s, and trying to infuse a little bit of youth here when you're starting to turn the page on a lot of the guys that have been here. You know, this is the swan song for Brandon Graham. Lane's getting up there in age. We've already seen Kelsey and Fletcher Cox walk away. And I like that they're rolling the dice on some of these young guys. Like I kind of like your wording there, Pete. Is it perfect? No, but I would agree to the poll as well. And I have to believe that Vic Fangio believes that this is a guy that can do what needs to be done in a defense that does lean on the linebacker position. So, you know, I'm all for the move. Chat's flying. And already over there, if you guys are in the YouTube, obviously you can vote. 21 votes, 86% of people agree that this is a fit for this team. 14% disagree. Keep those votes coming in. Keep those comments coming in. We're well over 100 viewers across our social media platforms, so we appreciate that. And here, Marcus Smith, he thinks Nakobe Dean is better than Devin White. Interesting insight there. That's something that, does anybody want to touch on that real quick before we?
Based on what?
Yeah,
like he hasn't
been on the field very much.
Yeah, I just went on a big rant with how I don't like Devin White, but even I can't say that. I think that I'm more hopeful for Nakobe Dean than I am with Devin White. But as of right now, Nakobe Dean has barely been on the field, and when he's been on the field, he hasn't shown to do anything at a higher level than what Devin White does. They do a lot of similar things, but right. Devin White's been doing what he's been doing for years now. And like when it comes to Devin White, the good thing about him is he's like a splash player. When he makes like these big plays, like they're noticeable because, like I said, he's all over the field. But when he makes bad mistakes, they're really, really bad.
Really noticeable.
They're really bad. And people like gravitate to the name, but if you talk to Bucs fans, they will tell you he's been covered up a lot by Levante David. Levante David has made up and covered up for a lot of the mistakes that Devin White has done. So we don't have a Levante David here or anything like that. Can Devin White be that starter to depend on himself? I don't know. I have my doubts.
I mean, it's truly before we get to it, right? It's truly one of these things. It's $3.5 million, $4 million incentives. There was a deal last week that happened after the show. I'll just give you the numbers. 4 years, $24 million. Who signed that deal? It was Jake Elliott. Your kicker. It's your kickers.
I thought you were talking about the linebacker.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying for the fan out there. Obviously, you could definitely keep the interaction going on, keep the chat flying, keep those likes and subscribe, whatever you want to do. Your kicker's making $6 million base versus this guy making 3.5. Once again, I will stress this: if there is ever a reason in a season for this kid to figure it out, it is this year, because the league just told him what they view him and what his value is. He was a first-round pick, didn't see a second contract, and had to take a 1-year bet on me deal at 3.5. That's all. That it's plain. It's black and white. It's plain as day.
No, Pete, you're not lying. You're absolutely right on that. I just think it's a move that they had to make there. They went ahead and did it. And obviously we see some of the comments in here. People like to see a name guy, someone that they know and have seen who's a little bit young. It's an interesting call. We'll say that. We're going to talk with our guests here. Happy to welcome back to the show somebody who, if you want to talk Eagles, this is one of the standards in the city of Philadelphia. We're happy to welcome back for Bowen on the Birds, Mr. Les Bowen. How are you, Les?
Great, guys. How are you?
Les, what's going on?
We're doing great, Les. Lots to talk about. Coming off of last week, another huge week. And for all you in the comments section, if you have a question for Les, drop it in. And again, we're going to circle back to our poll here, Les, and we're going to start off that with you. And again, if you guys agree with this poll, pound that like. But Les, the Eagles signing of Devin White makes perfect sense in terms of fit, need, and contract. Agree, disagree. Our poll over on the YouTube, Les, has 24 votes at 88% agreeing with this poll. Where do you stand?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the contract is very little money at all, really, as you guys were talking before I came on here. You can't disagree with that. Devin White burst onto the scene, as you guys know, really with a big impact right away. As a rookie, he ran around and made plays, and you kind of, when someone's a rookie, you forgive a lot of stuff. If they're aggressive, if they're, active all the time, you say, well, he'll figure all that out. He'll smooth that out. He'll, gain some perspective on what the offenses are doing and be able to diagnose things a little better. People in Tampa say that hasn't really happened with Devin White, and he's the same guy now that he was 4 years ago. He just kind of runs around out there, and sometimes he finds the ball. The Eagles, it's a different coaching staff, a new defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio, new linebackers coach, this guy, Bobby King. Who knows? Certainly a lot of energy, a lot of athleticism. I think he can help the Eagles. I would sure like it if he became the guy that Tampa thought it was getting when they drafted him and when he had that really impactful rookie year and they won the Super Bowl. Reminds me a little bit of this was a less extreme situation, but Michael Kendricks with the Eagles. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Burst onto the scene, second-round pick, really, started right away. Everybody was really like, oh, this guy, they got it right this time. But over the next few years, it was kind of like, well, he didn't develop this, he didn't develop that. And he ended up actually playing a pretty big role in winning the Super Bowl after Jordan Hicks got hurt. But, his career with the Eagles wasn't maybe what people initially hoped it would be off of his rookie year and his draft position. And I think you can say the same for Devin White, first-round pick, high first-round pick, great rookie year. And then since then, last year he wasn't a starter by the end of the year. So you have to be a little concerned about that. But I still like the deal for the Eagles. They're not taking a huge risk here. They're not assuming some big cap number or giving away assets or anything like that. And, he's a better athlete than anybody else they have at that position, probably including Nakobe Dean.
Oh, 100% agree with that. Les getting some Twitter love over here. Martian says Les's clapbacks on Twitter are unmatched.
Oh, good. Awesome. Thank you, Martian.
They're awesome.
Usually we try to ask you a couple questions, Les, but we got people in here in the chat want to talk to you. So let's dive in. Marcus Smith, he says the problem with Devin White is that he's been making the same mistakes since they won the Super Bowl. It seems like he hasn't learned from those mistakes he's made. Do you have
that's what I was saying. He just hasn't developed, the way you want a guy to gain wisdom and knowledge. It just hasn't happened. And I don't know if that's because he hasn't worked at it or because he's just not able to do that. It's we'll see. Yes.
Another one over here for you, last couple directly to you. So we're going to go through
the division. Yeah.
Marcus asks, who do you think gives us the most competition this year in the division? Mm-hmm. He thinks it's Washington. They've been cooking in free agency to support the quarterback that they have coming in.
I like some of the moves Washington has made in terms of being a better team this year. I'm not sure Washington has done anything to really create a strong base to become a contender over the next 3 or 4 years, which they aren't. They're really not a very good team. They can be a little better team this year, but I don't think they added a lot of guys who are going to be there 3 years from now. I have to go with Dallas. I mean, despite what happened in the playoffs again, that's the most talented team in the division other than the Eagles. There's no doubt about it. I don't think it's even close. They haven't done much in free agency, but, free agency, we're in the middle of it right now, so it's a big deal, but free agency isn't the panacea. You don't win the Super Bowl in free agency. They still have a good roster, and if they draft well, they'll be a good team again and probably screw up again in the playoffs like they always do. But, Washington will be better, but I don't see them as the toughest competition in the division.
Well, I think the difference with Washington, and we're not going to see it this year, well, we're starting to see signs of it, I think, is that they have an ownership group that's willing to spend money to win now. Yeah. So is that going to hurt us this year? Maybe not so much. But do I think this year and next year are like culture-setting years for them to where that's a team that's going to be right in the thick of things? Absolutely. I think the Giants are the ones that are on the slide right now where we don't know what they are.
That's exactly right. Yes. And with Washington, it's really also what is their draft going to be? How are they going to draft under this new regime?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody was asking me on Twitter just a little while ago about Chase Young, who I guess signed today with the Saints. Horribly overdrafted. And it pains me to say that because I have a son who went to Ohio State. But, he's not anywhere near what Washington thought he was. He's an okay player. I wouldn't mind having him around, but he's another example of that regime, the previous regime being, not very good.
Yeah. Martian asks, Les, do you think Vic is a big game / big stage coordinator like Spags?
Gee, I don't know. That's a good question. I have no idea. Spags has had an interesting career from being Eagles linebackers coach to those years in the Giants and then being the head coach of the Rams when they were in St. Louis when the team was horrible. He kind of had to rebuild his cred. After he was a head coach for a few years, it was always like, oh, my God, this guy. But now with what happened in the Super Bowl, he's at the very top again.
Yeah.
Fangio, I don't know. Fangio knows a lot. I am a little concerned, as a lot of people have said, the Fangio-style defenses were kind of on the downswing this past season. Every trend, crests and goes down. And, maybe it's not the wave of the future anymore or anything like that. But he's been around forever, and you're going to see a better organized defense than you saw last year. I can tell you that. Other than that, I don't know.
Well, a lot of the players on that defense were hurt in Miami last year. In fairness to him, he was missing his two biggest pass rushers in the playoffs. So it's a little, I don't know if I could take last year as the sample size. But another one in here by Andrew Baker. He says, as someone who doesn't watch Tampa Bay that often, what is Devin White's issue? Is he a bad attitude guy? Can he not cover? Does he whiff a lot? Generally doesn't know. So can you give us a little insight on that?
Yeah, it's like I said, it's just like he doesn't seem to have a lot of, that position is so much about being able to read what's going to happen and anticipating it. And he just doesn't. Sometimes he guesses right, and sometimes he's way out of position. And who was a little bit like that, and he was a much better, more consistent player, was Jeremiah Trotter. They used to say Trotter played back in the days when middle linebacker was mostly about stopping the run and blitzing.
Yep.
They used to say all you had to do was show him play action, and he was cooked. But and then Devin White is a little bit like that. Really physical, aggressive player who just doesn't seem to have the sense of the game that you would really like to see. A guy retired today, by the way, who had that sense of the game, Leighton Vander Esch in Dallas. Unfortunately, neck injuries, that's one of the things they can't fix in football is your neck when it goes bad. And, that was that kind of guy, cerebral, heady, always knew where to go. But Devin White, not so much.
Yeah, as a competitor, obviously he played for Dallas, but as a competitor, he is one of those guys you wonder what if he could have stayed healthy his whole career. I always kind of looked at him and saw a little bit of a Zach Thomas type of a player who's a Hall of Fame caliber player. Yeah. He just couldn't stay healthy. It's a shame, but sometimes that's how the chips fall. Marcus asked, Les, do you think this 2024 Eagles team is capable of being the 1 seed this year based on the moves they've made? San Francisco, Detroit, and Green Bay seem to be the main threats for the 1 seed. And there's a couple of teams there. Green Bay's made moves this year. Chicago might be a sneaky team right now. Yeah. I mean, they are loading up. They're loading up on weapons. They don't
have a rookie quarterback, Chrome.
If he pans out to be what they hope, if he can make an immediate impact.
1 seed, I don't know. We'll see. I agree that they make good moves. But I don't know if a rookie quarterback is going to take you to the 1 seed. But those teams are really good. Those are good choices by Marcus there. I don't know that you can say anything about the Eagles right now. I mean, I like the moves they've made. I don't have a huge problem with any. I would have loved to have gotten like a Patrick Queen type linebacker or a Simmons type safety, which they still could do. Simmons is still not signed, by the way. But they have 8 draft picks coming up, and we'll have a better idea after the draft of what they really have. I think the Eagles, a lot of it has to do with what happens with Jalen Hurts. We say that over and over again. People get sick of hearing it, but that's probably the biggest variable for them is what happens with Hurts and Kellen Moore. And that's, but yeah, they're capable of being the 1 seed. They were capable of being the 1 seed last year, and then they didn't do it.
Yeah, no, it's 100% true. Just a quick reminder out there, everybody, you guys have been super active. We love it. Keep bringing it on, by the way. Don't forget, like, subscribe, follow us all over the social media platforms. Hit those alerts. Keep coming back with us. We're live with Les Bowen here on Eagles Talk for Bowen on the Birds. And just a quick update, guys, on the poll on YouTube, which we appreciate you guys. Keep voting on there. The Eagles signing of Devin White it makes perfect sense for the team. Perfect fit, need, and contract. Agree, disagree. 35% of people, 35 people have voted. 86%. So this one's kind of staying high up here, Les. We're getting a lot of people seem to like it, which I think is a counter from last week. It seemed like when the signing first happened, it was a little bit of a real mixed bag.
Well, the initial thing was about the $7.5 million, which is a bogus figure. Right. He's not going to make $7.5 million. I think they got good value for what their money, certainly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that as well. Couple other names, just real quick, Les, before we have to let you go. Yeah. Just give us some quick opinions. Obviously, we touched on it last week. CJ Gardner-Johnson is back with the Philadelphia Eagles. Last week we heard it was a rumored thing.
Yeah.
It is official. What are your thoughts real quick on CJ coming back?
Good player. I don't like him much as a person. I think on a team that struggles, he'll be a real problem. They better be good this year. If people say, "Oh, if they just had him last year," I don't know. If they just had him last year, the whole locker room might have blown sky high. He's kind of there's a reason why he moves around a lot. But a good player. I'm glad from a talent standpoint that he's back, and I thought he handled the stuff with the fans pretty well.
That's the way to do it in Philadelphia. Let's just come in, own it, and move on. Right.
Right. Absolutely. Yes.
Devontae Parker comes in now to be your what seems to be your number 3 wide receiver, which to me is a massive upgrade. I think we all would agree here, boys, that big upgrade over Quez Watkins. What are your thoughts on Devontae Parker, an experienced wide receiver here coming in as a 3?
I'm glad to hear you say that, because I'd gotten a lot of reaction on Twitter of people that weren't excited about this, or I don't know that I'm excited, but you tend to remember what you saw with your own eyes. And in 2019, I guess it was, the Eagles played in Miami, and Devontae Parker had 7 catches for 159 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Miami beat the Eagles 37-31, even though the Eagles had been favored in that game. Mm-hmm. And that stuck in my mind. It was a long time ago, sure. And he's not that guy, but he caught 33 passes for a horrible New England offense last year. If he's 3 or if he's 4, I don't have a problem with him being here. He's a veteran. He's big. He's got more left than Julio Jones probably had last year. They're going to draft a receiver who might end up winning that 3 spot. But I have the money, not an issue. He might make the team, he might not, but if he does, I'm happy to have him.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 more quick viewer comments here, Les, and then we're going to let you go. Don, our resident Detroit Lions fan, who comes in and talks Philly sports with us. We love it, Don. Thank you as always. Thank you to all you guys for dropping your comments and questions for Les. He says, Les, is there any chance that Kelsey pulls a Brett Favre and comes back?
He joked about it on social media. I don't think so. I mean, that would be cool if he did, but I think he's done. I think he's ready to be with his family and go on to his media career and all that stuff. And I'm glad for him. I wish he hadn't retired, but I think he's certainly given it more than you could ever ask, of him. And physically, I think he's at a point where he's really afraid that he's going to break down. And, I think it's a prudent move for him to retire right now. And I don't think he can come back at this point. I'd like to be wrong, but no, I don't think so.
Yeah, I would agree. I think we all would agree with you on that. Last one here, Les. Marcus Smith. Les, how do you think Kellen Moore will change the scheme? Do you think it'll be more under center, more deep attacks with the air Coryell, or more explosive run game?
Boy, you're asking. Yeah, I don't know. How much of it is going to be Kellen Moore and how much of it is still going to be Sirianni? We don't really know that. I do think with Saquon Barkley that they're setting up to maybe throw more to the running backs, which has not been a Sirianni thing. It used to be a big Eagles thing for all those Andy Reid and Chip Kelly years that I covered the Eagles. That was, McCoy and Deuce and all those guys. Westbrook, of course, were huge receivers, great receivers. Westbrook was the guy that, to me, Westbrook and oh my God, I'm having an Alzheimer's moment. The Rams guy, Marshall Faulk, yes, that man right there, yes. They were the 2 guys that you could line up out there and they would run a pattern like a wide receiver would run it, with getting in and out of breaks and stuff like that. That the running back in the offense, I think, is an important receiver, especially in just in terms of blitz pickup and stuff, not just blocking, which Barkley does, but being available to the quarterback as an outlet. I think you'll see a lot of that. I don't know about – I mean, I would like to see deep attacks. I think they have the personnel for that. We'll see. Under center, I wouldn't mind seeing a little more of that. It drives me crazy when teams in short yardage or in the shotgun. I hate that. The Eagles don't do that as much as some teams do, but they do it some. If they're not running the tush-push brotherly shove, they're often in shotgun. I wouldn't mind seeing them under center. More explosive run game, I don't know how you really scheme that. I mean, that depends. I mean, Barkley will give them a more explosive run game, I guess. But I don't know what to expect from Kellen Moore. I like his concepts. I think he's done a good job wherever he's been, and we'll see what his influence is, keeping in mind that it's still Nick Sirianni's team.
Yeah, I mean, great points there, Les. Les, another great week with you.
Appreciate it. My pleasure.
Yeah, we appreciate it, Les, coming in. And I make sure you guys go check out Les's blog, lesbowensjohn.com. And where can we find you on Twitter or X?
Yes, at Les Bowen, Twitter, X. Les Bowens John, I put one up this afternoon. There's been some bitching on talk radio about the Kenny Pickett signing because they didn't get Justin Fields. And
listen, if you want to stay on for a quick debate here, Les, I'd be happy to, because I'm
not doing anything.
I'm disgusted by the Kenny Pickens.
Really?
I mean, there are two quarterbacks that I can't stand in the NFL. One was Marcus Mariota. Mm-hmm. The other is Kenny Pickett.
Well,
I mean, I understand that he was not put in the greatest situation in terms of having Matt Canada. However, I mean, this is as mid as it gets. And I know it's a backup quarterback, Les.
Well, it's kind of what you want as a backup quarterback.
I mean, I would have been fine with Justin Fields in a heartbeat.
Yeah. I don't think Justin Fields would want to be here in that position.
That's exactly it. He doesn't want to come here.
Trouble.
He's going to Pittsburgh, and he's not going to. It's not even a competition, and that's Russell.
No, it is. Russell Wilson's 34 years old, and he hasn't really been good in years. We'll see whether it's a comp. They say right now in March that it's not
exactly.
Thank you. See if it's a comp. We'll see in Game 5 if it's a competition.
Exactly.
That's not telling him on the side.
That's not the scenario here. That's not at all the scenario here. And I don't know that Justin Fields is any good. If you look at their metrics, there's a lot of PFF's passer rating. Who do you think had a higher, even last year when Pickett was horrible, who had a higher passer rating? Kenny Pickett or Justin Fields?
Probably.
I don't think Justin Fields was coached well either early on in the year.
No, but this idea that he's
a lot more
far superior, I don't know that. I mean, he might be. We might be talking about two bad quarterbacks, actually. But
I think we have to consider the fact that I think a big reason or a big thing is that Kenny Pickett is on a rookie contract for 2 more years, while Justin Fields is only on a rookie contract for 1 more year. Therefore, you have to pay him.
There's an option.
There's
an option for that last year after this year for $25.6 million.
So that 5th-year option is 25.6. So either way, Pittsburgh's going to have to make a decision long term whether they pick up the option on Fields or they let Russ walk.
Or pay him a new contract or something. I don't know. To me, Pickett, if you go back to his rookie year, if you throw last year out and go back to his rookie year and look at some of his metrics, they were actually very, very good. He was great at making plays like out of sequence, which, the downside of that is he's bailing out of the pocket and running around when maybe he should just stand there and throw the ball to the receiver. But he made some amazing plays as a rookie. He had a lot of good next-gen stats. He had some very good numbers. Again, he's the backup quarterback. You're not bringing him in to be a franchise quarterback. It's crucial to me. One thing I was kind of leery of, because there was all that stuff out of Pittsburgh about him not wanting to compete. And I was thinking, well, how does that work with him coming to to be the backup, but he's very positive on being the backup. His deal is he wants to come here and work under Kellen Moore and Nick Sirianni. And I think in the back of his mind, he's thinking, well, if Hurts gets hurt, I've got A.J. Brown, I got Deontay Smith, I've got, I can make a platform for myself as somebody's starter in 2025.
Yep.
And I don't have a problem with that. He's not sitting there thinking he should be the starter this year, which is what Justin Fields would be doing.
Exactly.
I don't know. I mean, I didn't think he was the worst quarterback in the world coming out of college.
You could do so much worse. You could do so much worse.
Absolutely.
I'm not even a big Pickett fan. I'm not a
me neither. Me
Yeah,
neither. But,
You know what? Let me ask the fam out there. If you like the Kenny Pickett pickup, I want you to throw a like on this video. If you don't like the Kenny Pickett pickup, like me, and you have another suggestion, like I would have rather had Sam Howell. There's a lot of quarterbacks I'd have rather had, to be honest with you.
Sam Howell.
Throw your name in the chat. Throw
Kenny
a name
Pickett.
in the chat for us, and let's give us a couple names to have a conversation about, because I would go for just about anybody.
Yeah,
I mean, and Kenny betted on himself. I mean, you look at Jalen Hurts' history; he's going to get playing time. There is going to be 1 or 2 games based on Jalen Hurts' playing style. Would we like him to play all 17? Yes. Is it likely it's going to happen? Chances are I'm probably taking the under on that, right? Because he's not going to play all 17 games. Hence, Kenny Pickett is looking at that like, hey, I'm going to be able to put something out there on tape, most likely. And listen, at the same time, even though what they gave up a pick spot for him, did we automatically hand him the backup, or does he not have to beat out Tanner McKee?
Right, he does. Yeah,
have to. Yeah, Tanner McKee.
You know what I mean?
Man, I hope Tanner McKee beats him out.
That would be great.
It's a very high chance that can happen. And this is a
lot of
point.
the bad vibes about Pickett out of Pittsburgh were about that whole situation where he got hurt.
Yeah.
Mason Rudolph came in. What I have heard about that, initially the Pittsburgh media are all over, this is a bad guy. He didn't want to play the last game. He didn't want to be the backup. And since then, I have heard, and I don't know if it's really true. Nobody, unless you have a recording of the conversations, nobody knows, but that he was kind of misled, that he rushed his comeback from ankle surgery so he could start again. And then they told him, nah, you're not going to start again. And,
right.
And then they went into the offseason and said, oh, you're our guy. Don't worry too much. We'll get a veteran, but it won't be anybody that you really have to worry about. And then they went and got Russell Wilson and told him he would be the starter. So, Pickett wanted out of there. Yep. And whether that means he doesn't want to compete or whether he just feels like he was fed a load of crap from the coaches and the management, I don't know. But I'm willing to give the guy a shot here. I don't, we'll see.
Big Dad jumps in here. Tom Marnone. He says,
"Yes, who cares about the backup?"
The backup always falls into the equation. So I'm not saying I need, although I would love him, Jacoby Brissett as a backup, but I'm just not in on Kenny Pickett. I don't.
Regardless,
it's like he didn't have weapons there, Les. Like he had 2 bona fide wide receivers. He had 2 really nice running backs. I mean, Najee Harris is like the only running back to have 1,000+ yards of the last 3 years or something.
They fired the offensive coordinator in the middle of the season.
Yeah, Matt Canada is horrible.
Well, he stinks. I mean,
I don't know. I don't know if he's any good or not, but I wouldn't look askance at him too much. They didn't give up a lot. The difference between that trade, I saw some website had, factoring out the third swapped for the fourth and the 2 sevenths, what that really amounts to is basically a mid-4th. Yeah. And if Fields does end up getting the majority of the starts in Pittsburgh, then Chicago will get a mid-4th. I mean, I don't think it's like, oh my God, that they made such a better deal for Fields than the Eagles got for Pickett. I don't know. And like Tom says, the Nick Foles thing isn't ever going to happen again.
No.
And that's the point I make in my John is, it's if you go to the backup, you're kind of screwed. I mean, that's just how it is,
with the Fields thing, like his agent is a highly respected agent, and he was gonna have Chicago do right by his agent. And there was other offers on the table for Fields to go, and Chicago did right and said, "Where do you want to go?" And after Pickett was gone, he said, "I'll go to Pittsburgh."
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know what's in the water in Pittsburgh. I mean, I've never seen Pittsburgh act this way about an exiting player to try to besmirch. I've never seen them go out their way to do that in a situation like this, especially for somebody where you knew he wasn't the only issue. Like, you fired your coordinator midway through when fans were outside picketing, like Pittsburgh turning to Philly.
They made a really bad decision.
You know what I mean?
They made a bad decision. They felt like they had to have a quarterback after Roethlisberger retired. It was a bad draft to get a quarterback. They took the only quarterback that was drafted in the first round that year, and it was Pickett. He was a Pitt guy, and they were really all over that, and it didn't work, and they want to blame it on him rather than on them.
Yeah. And it's weird because they're getting rid of. I mean, Pittsburgh, they got rid of Deontay Johnson for beans too. Like, they're nothing.
Yeah,
So,
I don't know what's going on there. That's been that's a
people.
flagship franchise in the NFL because of the Rooneys, and they're always competitive. They win Super Bowls, but they haven't won a playoff game in God knows when. Since before the Eagles won the Super Bowl. I don't think things are like what they used to be there. In terms of the overall operation. I like Mike Tomlin, but I don't know what. I don't think Pittsburgh is what Pittsburgh used to be.
Yeah.
Well, I think offensive coordinator is a big thing, right? And I think they've, since they've lost some of that stability they had with their longtime coordinators, they're trying to find their own way now too, right? Now they have Art Smith with I don't know how that's going to go. Don't love that hiring. Talk about a guy that couldn't develop a quarterback,
right? And if I'm Kenny Pickett, I would that would increase my desire to get developed somewhere else.
Yeah, Tom says Fields is soft too.
He might be. I don't know.
Well, I mean,
I think people like him because he can run. He's a great playmaker in terms of he can tuck the ball and go. But
yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh hasn't had a quarterback since Sid Luckman in the 1940s. Or I'm sorry, that's Chicago. Chicago hasn't had a quarterback since Sid Luckman in the 1940s. So I do take that into account of the fact that they're swapping another quarterback out. Pittsburgh, though, can they develop him? Can he be a guy that Chicago let a franchise quarterback walk away? I think it's going to be very interesting.
It will.
And can Kenny Pickett build his stock here? I will say this. There is an opportunity for him to come in the preseason, because we know that we don't play our quarterback very much in the preseason, to build a little bit of a stock and get an experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope that that's an opportunity for him, and then maybe he does become an asset down there. I'm just not a Kenny Pickett guy.
I understand. I'm really not either, but I don't think it's as big a deal as some people want to
exactly.
make.
Exactly. You shouldn't be a Kenny Pickett guy. You shouldn't have to worry about who your backup QB is until the week that he has to go in the game. That's how it should be. So don't feel bad that you
Listen.
Put it this way again. Like it goes back to the finances. You have two backup QBs to fill out the room, and they're playing on dirt cheap contracts. Like you're paying them next to nothing. That's the very minimum for at least 1 year, but like maybe even 2 years. So that's I think that's like, hey, 2 more years. We don't got to worry about QB right now. It's set. The room is set. That's it. So that's a huge.
Agree. That's why. Very good point.
Yeah.
Well, that was fun. Les, appreciate your time again. We got a little extra bonus time with Les talking.
No problem.
Yes. Somebody commented. Somebody wanted to talk about it, so why not? We dove in. Let's go for it. But Les, thanks again, brother.
Thanks for letting me on, guys.
Yeah, we're looking forward to next week. Les will be back with us for Bowen on the Birds 9:15.
Yes,
next week. So, Les, have a great rest of your week. Go Birds.
You too. Take care.
Have a great night, Les.
See you, Les.
That was Bowen on the Birds, live here on Eagles Talk A2D. that was a fun conversation. Lots of insight there, and a little bit of a fun little debate at the end. Loved all the comments in here. And listen, I guess I'm more in the minority than I thought I would be.
No,
But
you're not in the minority. You're not in the minority. Kenny Pickett stinks. He wears 2 gloves. He's a total nerd. I hate that he's on. I hate that he's on the Eagles. I hate that he's one snap away from playing. The guy blows. Guys like Kenny Pickett, whenever they do bad, they have excuse after excuse. Oh, my coaching wasn't good. My receivers weren't good. My offense. Pittsburgh got a pretty damn good roster. He had plenty of opportunity to show what he can do there in Pittsburgh, and he didn't do anything.
I will give you this both. He did legit get beat out by Mason Rudolph. Legit.
Which is bad.
he got beat out.
He got beat out by Mason Rudolph.
I don't understand why you give up so much capital in the 3rd round to get this guy when you can just draft the guy in the 4th round.
It's the equivalent of a 5th round pick for a rookie contract.
I don't care. I wouldn't give him this empty. I wouldn't give up this empty Zin camp.
Isn't whether Pickett is good. That's no one has said Pickett is good. That's not the argument.
I know, but everyone in the chat, like Tom, is like, "Oh, it doesn't matter about backup quarter." Well, when Jalen Hurts either stinks or can't play next year, and Kenny Pickett's in there being a total loser, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. You could have signed Ryan Tannehill. You could have traded for Sam Howell. You could draft a guy in the mid rounds like Joe Milton, the guy that I really like, who's got an absolute cannon and can move around back there, and he's still cheap. Like
they still may do that though. They still anything draft related, they still may do. I mean, you never know, but
then we'll have 8 quarterbacks on the roster.
I get it.
The new QB Factory T-shirt. I can't stand that Kenny Pickett's on this roster.
I'm waiting for the first Eagles licensed merchandise to come out with 2 gloves on it, and then
oh god. Oh my God!
I don't even wear gloves. I don't even wear gloves driving a UPS truck, let alone playing quarterback in the NFL. Guy's a loser. Like, can we just call it like it is for one time? It's a bad move by Howie. You can't do that. You can't give up that type of draft capital for Kenny Pickett. Sign Ryan Tannehill.
He's probably.
That's. I think they want the financial flexibility for whatever reason. Which I think there's a Smitty extension coming up pretty soon. There may be a Reddick extension in the works. They want that flexibility.
Yeah.
Let's circle back. Last 10 minutes here.
You need Kenny Pickett to have financial flexibility. I don't get like.
We're not in overcarry.
Yeah, it's true.
Are you sure?
Just a quick update on our YouTube poll, and obviously keep the comments coming in on all our other platforms, giving us your opinions on agree to disagree. 53 votes, 89% agree that the Devin White signing is it makes perfect sense in terms of the fit, need, and the contract. So I think people are coming around on this, having a little bit of time to decompress and look at it a little differently. Chucks is not coming around on it, and that's fine, Chucks. So, obviously they went out and they also signed Oren Burks, which is another addition to this football team.
I was going to bring that up. Because
let's. I mean, we're talking linebackers, Philadelphia Eagles. So they signed 2 this week: Devin White, Oren Burks. Some people don't know a whole lot about Oren Burks. So if you want to throw,
I can give you something 9 for 9. 9 for 9. After Dre Greenlaw went down, after he tore his Achilles, Oren Burks inserted into the game. He was targeted 9 times, gave up 9 receptions.
He's a special teamer. He's a special team.
He's not really a starting.
I'm not knocking the move. It is what it is. But to me, I'd rather just keep Zach Cunningham for all that.
No,
he's
Zach
a special
Cunningham.
team.
No.
So what is the?
I don't even know what's the guy's name.
Oren Burks.
Oren Burks.
All right, I'll look him up in week 8 if he starts doing good.
So what does the family think out there, right? So we know Devin White's here. Is Reed going to be your number 2, I suppose? Do we think that they're going to address this early on in the draft?
No.
I do, personally.
You think so?
I do. I think so.
I think
linebacker early in the draft?
In the first 2 rounds, 3 picks, I think that they will end up drafting a linebacker.
Yeah, I think day 2.
I'm in the adage, I don't think we have 2 picks on day 2 because I think we may move up in round 1.
Okay, well, if that's the case, I'm fine with that too because obviously – there's an end to the means with that. But if they end up sticking with those 2 picks, I think that's what they do. I think they end up addressing the linebacker position, and they have somebody who can rotate with Devin White and Reed Blankenship and come in with immediate impact. I'm telling you guys, my opinion, this whole not their MO thing, the gloves are off this year. They have to be, and I'm happy to see so far it's been that way because you had a historic collapse last year. You can't rest on your laurels. Going out and getting these coordinators with experience, like these guys have to have say in this.
Yeah, I don't like to your point, Crow. I said it when not even after, shortly before the Saquon signing, is that like I don't think we can shoebox in Howie to one thing and say like, oh, he never does this, so he'll never do it. Like he's shown that he's willing to zag when everyone else zigs. He's willing to overcorrect. He's willing to change his ways and do things if he thinks he needs to. He's willing to change. If anything, over the span of his career and his time as GM of the Eagles, one thing we've seen is him correcting mistakes from before. So yeah, he may have never like not drafting a linebacker early, like on maybe like day 2, might not be like a thing he usually does. Doesn't mean he'll never do it. And the Eagles haven't drafted a corner in round 1 since God knows when. Do we really think they won't do it if the guy's not there? Like I don't think that's a firm stance we can ever like say, oh, I 100% believe Howie will never do this or that.
But here's the thing: there's 2 things, and Brinks can appreciate this as a golfer, right? Howie, sometimes you can correct, but then you could try to overcorrect. If I'm on 2 tees and I fade one right, there's a chance on that third one, the next one is going to be anything but right. It's going to be very, very far left. So you don't want Howie to somehow have this high variance to where it's a glaring issue and everybody can see that. And then now you go above and beyond to try to double down and correct that, right? I just want them to do BPA on their board. I'm kind of probably in the minority here. All these big name free agent signings that we've been doing kind of got me feeling a little weird in my belly because it's like, are we really building this foundationally for long term? The same thing Lester said about Washington, right? When we brought up Washington, and I like what they've done so far, but he said, are they really building a foundation for long term success? Where I feel like we have that window right before Jalen's contract kicks in, but at the same time, it's like we can't fix everything in these 10 days that since free agency has started. And I feel like that's been Howie's MO to this point so far. Obviously, you have the Landon extension, you have the Sweat extension, players like that who are homegrown, you can start to see that. It's just going to take a while to play out and as the cards come out where we're going to be at. But I'm not going to say the DT word. I'm not doing that. But if they go out and they sign Simmons, you got to start fringing on that because it's like, dude, like all these names, all these positions that we needed it. Is that really the best way to try to solve it? Right. And then the expectations come at that point. And
I get kind of where you're going, but at the same time, with the mindset was going to the offseason, the defense needs to overhaul. So like if we're overhauling, we can't go into the draft with glaring needs and glaring holes into the draft. As much as I don't like the Devin White signing, I get getting a name in here. So that part of it, I don't mind. You got to like seal up all your glaring holes going to the draft so that you're not reaching. I think that with Howie, I agree with you. With drafting, it is BPA. You draft the best player available at any position of need. What I'm saying is I think they'll go linebacker day 2 is because the need will fit how this draft class is looking at. If you look at the linebackers, and we've had several names in the chat, definitely keep dropping in. I mean, Adrian Cooper, Junior Colson, these are day 2 guys. So with how the board is going to fall likely, I think that's going to work out perfectly with matching what the Eagles need at that time.
I can't wait for the Steelers to get some all-pro at pick 98, and we're stuck with stupid Kenny Pickett as our backup quarterback because it's a good value. You'll see.
All right. I hope we don't see. I hope we don't see. That's the goal.
Greg Miller says if the Eagles stay put at 22 and they don't trade up or down, he believes they're going to draft an offensive tackle. Anybody want to reply to that?
I don't think there's going to be a tackle.
I don't think there's one
there. If they stay at 22, there's going to probably be somebody from the secondary that's going to be there. maybe a wide receiver, maybe somebody that Brinks likes out of Texas. That can happen at 22 if they feel
that guy's a beast, man.
Listen, I've seen boards. I don't think he'll be there, but if somehow Brian Thomas is still there on the board at 22, by all means, you run and you figure it out.
I like Donovan Mitchell.
I like Mitchell too. I like Brian Thomas more. That's just me.
I hear. No, I think they're very close to each other.
Yeah,
very close to each other.
But I mean, if somebody like that, it depends. I think this is a draft that's going to get crazy. Night one is going to be a little unorthodox because there's so much fluctuation outside of Caleb Williams. So who's going to be number 2 on people's boards? If it's Daniels, if it's Drake May, if Washington's going to move up to number 1 overall seed, and hell, what the Eagles are going to do. I listened to something today where they had the Eagles jumping from 22 to 12 to go get Kenyon Mitchell. I mean,
I feel like this is an Eagles, or this is like a Chuck's comment here because Chuck's is not a PFF fan, right?
Right.
Not exactly your standard of anything. PFF rating with White means nothing to me. He's 26 and more talented than anything we've had in recent memory, not to mention he has a reigning experience.
Oh, yeah. I had no clue. My opinion on White has nothing. Like, I have no clue what PFF rates him. So, like, it's totally detached. My opinion on it is what it is.
Lucky for you guys.
Are you really?
That's really happening? It allowed us to give you a little bit of a bonus here. A little bonus overage here. Live on Eagles Talk A2D. Let's welcome in the Godfather himself.
Hey, guys.
Tom Arnone.
Hey!
Kenny Pickett's biggest fan, Tom Arnone, joining us. How are you, buddy?
Well, I got 2 things, right? What's up, boys? I got 2 things. This isn't just Kenny Pickett. Like, I just don't care enough about the backup. If you care not enough about the backup, you don't believe in the starting quarterback. So that means I got to go find another starter. I don't need the backup. That's how that works. I don't care. You could assign me. Tom Arnone signs with the Eagles, right, as the backup. If you get to me, we have a problem. We have a problem. Now, maybe you find lightning in a bottle a little bit with Kenny Pickett. Maybe he figures things out here. Fine. What Chuck said is spot on. Like, it's 2 years. Right, you have him under control. You don't have to worry about a backup for 2 years, and you can just hopefully a guy gets better. And if you need him in spot starts, he can be good enough for you. That's all you're looking for. Now, right, that's enough for the backup. I got my binoculars on the man right next to me because we've agreed all offseason on a lot of stuff. And people don't think me and Chuck's agree on a lot of stuff, but we do. We agree with more than what people think we agree on. Shocking. The one I will disagree with him wholeheartedly on is Devin White. And anybody who disagrees with it hasn't watched him enough. They didn't watch him enough in college, and we're just overlooking 124 average tackles a year. We're just going to overlook that on a defense who couldn't tackle me or you. We'll overlook it, and we'll just look at 2023. That's what everybody that's anti-Devin White is looking at. You're looking at an extremely terrible year, and we're forgetting all the years prior. We're forgetting a 26-year-old that wasn't all-pro. That's not easy to make. We're not talking about a Pro Bowler. We're talking about an all-pro. So that's low risk on the numbers that they signed him for. That's the biggest low-risk, high-reward move of the offseason. That's bigger than – because Saquon's not low-risk. That's high-risk, high-risk, right? Because you're paying him a lot of money. Everybody else is high-risk, high-risk. He's the one where you lifted up some things, you lifted up some hay, and you found the needle. And that's a needle in a haystack for me. And hopefully he can be a little bit more like he was in 2022 and not what he was in 2023. And you hope new scenery, change of scenery, and the fact that you're on a 1-year deal, babe. So it's prove it time, but you cannot deny the talent. I mean, as a former 6th overall pick of the draft, Super Bowl champion, captain of a defense, I don't think we can just overlook it. But I want to hear, because me and Chucks have not, or anybody, me and Chrome have, but us 4 haven't talked about any of this stuff. But listen, we had a great offseason. But I'll elaborate on on what we think Devin White doesn't do well.
Yeah, so I absolutely hear on that. And like when I answered the poll question, I started with saying, hey, it fits, like the need makes sense. The contract makes sense. Even when I saw the details, said $4 million, I'm like, oh, okay. What that's chump change. I that's perfectly fine. My issues are all about like fit. When I look at what Fangio does and I look at what Devin White does, it doesn't matter. Like my head's like, I don't see a realm where this, like, what his skill set is makes sense for what Fangio asks his linebackers traditionally in every team he's been to, and coached, what would they do? He doesn't. He is a perfect fit for, like, if we ran a Mike Zimmer offense, right? You have your four linemen, and all your linebackers are at the line of scrimmage. They're attacking downhill. They're blitzing. That's where I'd be like, yo, get Devin White, because he will do that for you. But what Fangio does, the big question is just like, for me, was this like a panic move by Howie saying the linebacker market, the everyone available in the linebacker free agency it's dwindling. There's hardly anyone left. So let's just go sign the guy who has a pedigree and a resume. Is that a panic move, or was it more so, hey, Fangio gave his blessing and said, I can make this work. I can do something with him. And if it's the latter, I'm good with it, because like you said, I agree. It's low risk. So you're low risk. I think the disagreement is we agree on low risk. You say it's high reward. I say it's a medium reward, because I don't see the fit. I don't see how it makes sense. And I think that we have to keep in mind what he was able to do in terms of his resume was beside another star linebacker, Levante David, who did a lot of stuff for him in terms of helping him and knowing where to be. Levante did a lot of the nuanced things so that Devin White could just fly around, could just be a missile and go. If Devin White is the guy, the starter, the main Mike in this defense, I question whether he has the ability to diagnose, to shed blocks, because he can't shed blocks well. He's just more like space. If there's space and there is a lane, go get ball. And if we're able to do something like that, to where he only has to do that here, then he's going to flourish. But that's not traditionally what Fangio asks of his linebackers.
Well, my rebuttal of that is now when the Kobe Dean's here for. He's the better pass. He's the bad pass cover guy. He's probably the smarter of the two linebackers per se, right? So he's more of that on your defense. I think Devin White here is here to be a ball hawk and is here to tackle anything that moves and try to play within a system. I'll always say this: you go get special athletes. You can fit them into what you want to do. You can. Now that doesn't mean it's always perfect, but I think on this, like, he's just such a great athlete, and he's proven it, that if you can get him to slow down a little bit, he can fit in anything. I think certain players are like that. I think he might be one of them, and I'm not trying to overrate him either. I'm just trying to say, from what we had, it's a gigantic upgrade. It's gigantic. Even if he plays his worst season, he's still better than Zach Cunningham and Nicholas Morrow. That's not crowning Howie. That's just saying that this guy is elite talent. Now, does elite talent show up on Sundays, Thursdays, Mondays, whatever the NFL wants to play on? That's going to be decided this year, right? But from what was out there, I mean, the only guy that I wanted more, forget Queen, because that's out of our price range. I probably would have liked Baker a little bit more from Miami, but he's hurt a lot.
Yes, yeah.
But he's also hurt a lot. So there's catch-22s with all these guys, But yeah, that's where my thing was. And then it was, hey, let's why are we talking about the backup?
I'll go on the record and say I would say Devin White probably, just as far as from an athletic perspective, is probably on our defense, probably only behind Jalen Carter.
Yeah, he's athletic as all.
Like he's fast. He's
a bullet. Yeah,
right. Like I don't see any defensive coordinator just looking at him, let's say 6'3", 230, 240, and just saying, I can't do anything with that. And now you watch game tape, maybe a different story.
You watch his stats; it's a pretty easy story.
Right. I mean, he
23 sacks,
like 84 tackles last year in 13 games. So he missed some time, different position, but they got to figure out. But at least now you give Fangio something to kind of figure it out, where before we just didn't have anything. But like I said, anybody who's just coming and saying cover this, cover that, he's not. Listen, ain't that many coverage linebackers in the league as it is anyway. Hence why is it such a big prevalent thing where to get a mismatch on a linebacker? Because it's harder shit to do, and these linebackers and coverage don't grow on trees.
What did Brink say? Because Brink said it perfectly. I love it. That's why you sign safeties.
Yeah.
Right. You sign safeties. You sign safeties to cover.
Yeah, they're called safeties. Yeah.
I need linebackers to tackle in open field. That's what I need. That's what I pay linebackers for. It's very simple what I'm paying a linebacker for.
This is where
don't you guys think that if Vic Fangio is the big genius that like we think he is, and we're counting him as in the offseason as this great hire, that he's going to look at what Devin White can do well and make him do that, and not have him do the stuff that he's not so good at?
that's what I alluded to. That's what I had said. Is like if Fangio came to Howie and said, "Yeah, I can make this work," then by all means, I that makes me so much more confident. But was it that, or was it Howie saying, "Oh, we don't have many choices left. Let me just sign a guy." You know what I mean? That's what I'm worried about. I don't know which route they went. And my only rebuttal to the coverage thing is, yeah, I get it. There aren't a lot, but that's where I would have signed a guy like Jordan Brooks. That's where I would have signed a Jerome Baker. Those were the guys. That's where like you can argue with anyone else.
Here's the thing though.
I was consistent from the jump and saying these are the guys I want because of their coverage ability. There's who I want. If you're not getting them, I'm questioning them. But I've been consistent.
If they would have signed Jordan Brooks for 3 years, $30 million, knowing this fan base, if they would have signed Jordan Brooks for 3 years, $30 million, and Patrick Queen signed for 3 for $41, what do you think this fan base would be doing?
Oh, I light people up.
They'd be losing their mind.
Yeah, I like. Who wants to get lit up?
Fine with it. I would have been.
Hold on, Devin White is closer to Patrick Queen than Brooks or Baker are. That's just the facts if you watch enough football. And in terms of elite talent, Devin White's closer to Patrick Queen than the other two are. Doesn't mean we saw it, right? Doesn't mean we always see it. That's the catch-22 on him that I agree with you guys on. Mm-hmm. I agree with Chuck's on. There's that other side of him that needs to be tamed. But we said it on Wednesday, Chrome, right? There's no way that defensive moves are getting made without Vic signing off on stuff. There's no way. He just wasn't a coach anymore. He didn't come here to say, do whatever you want, Howie. He came here to be a voice in the room. And from the looks of this offseason, it seems like the coaches and the general manager have a lot to say to each other. From the moves we've watched, it seems like a lot of guys, because look at CJ. CJ's the perfect Vic guy. He's the perfect Vic guy if he's on the field. So to me, Vic looks at Devin like I look at him. Elite talent for $4 million, and if he plays at a level that we hope he can, then he gets 7.5 or 7. Sign me up. Sign me up, because I think they look into Kobe as their cover guy again if he can stay healthy.
If he can stay healthy, yeah, that's a big thing. And that's a great point, because even if you flip it on the other side, Tom, I don't think Saquon is signed unless Kellen Moore says, "Howie, I want that." Like so to your point. That like I totally hear that. That's completely fair. So that that does give me hope that Fangio was like, I can use him. So yeah,
I'm trying to talk that into existence too, right? Because we spent years where Howie doesn't listen to anybody, and that put him in a closet. And I gotta hope when you go on a tailspin like this team did, and it's not that's not who they are. They've never been that type of team that collapses like this football team did, to go out and do things that you haven't done before. And to make statements, and not just Saquon, to go and be able to put your tail between your legs and go talk to CJ, right? Hey, you know what? We didn't make this work last year. Let's get this right. And you do. And then to go out and double and add on for a guy like Devin White. Yeah, you didn't get the other 3 names that we would like to have, but you still left with a really, and not like he's 30. We're not getting a guy who's 30 and be like, well, at 25, he had some great years. No, we're talking last year. The year before, he had a really good year. He had 2 forced fumbles. He had a couple sacks. He had 124 tackles. Goodness gracious. I'll freaking go behind 7-Eleven and do whatever you wanted last year over these last 7 games to people to get that kind of talent on my defense. That's what we were lacking. We were lacking guys who want to get physical. White, CJ, and even Huff, even though he's little, these guys are physical guys that all bring something to this defense. And right now, they're way better than they were last year. Just on paper.
You know what I wish?
A huge point, too, guys, because the Vic Fangio factor in this is key, right? We're talking about a guy who has the potential and hasn't seen it yet. And SJM down here drops in here. Look at some of the names he's coached up. Pat Willis, Navarro Bowman, Chris Borland. He might be the guy that taps that potential that's in there and maybe gets Devin White to that level that we need him to be as far as being a linebacker one.
I hope so. I really hope. You know who would have helped too? Like I think Tommy, you had said it, or no, Brink said it, like talking about like safeties. It would have been so awesome if we knew Sidney was healthy. If Sidney Brown was healthy, he could mix in there as your dime backer and then like solve a lot of problems with having, Devin White, not having to cover that. But it sucks that he's hurt and he's not going to be available for half the season at least.
Yeah.
No, it does because it was a young player that we saw just was hungry for the football, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't make a lot of tackles at times. He over pursue stuff, take bad angles, but the want and the speed, the closing speed that you saw at times from him, I was excited. And it's 2024, so these injuries are like nothing anymore, right? So was it? Wait, I forget. Was it his Achilles or was it ACL?
ACL.
Oh, yeah, he's good.
So mid-season, I think they were talking about mid-season. He'll be back.
You guys want to go 5 more minutes?
Yeah, we can go 5.
Let's go 5 more because the fam is in here. They're like, keep going.
Okay, I'm trying to talk Chucks into my side a little bit and bring him over and make him try to feel better about it. Right?
I want to, yeah.
Listen,
I know he's open for it. He's open for a sell. Like I'm like Devin White's agent tonight. I came in like, oh, wait, did he pay your bills last week, Tom? You know what I mean? That's what it sounds like.
I feel like a lot of people need to sell. And you know what, fam out there, you guys keep climbing up the views, the likes, the comments, which you are, and we love it, and that's what keeps us here. We'll keep rolling. But yeah, let's get 5 more in here because that's being demanded by the fan. Greg's saying he loves Cindy. Here we go. Here, Swopey, Tom. You know you love a little Swopey talk. QBs will keep getting rid of the ball versus the Eagles' pass rush to avoid hits and sacks. They'll keep taking advantage of short crossing routes against bad pass defense and average Eagles linebackers.
Now stop, Swoop. Like I love you. That stop it. You just got CJ. That doesn't help you in the slot. You got Isaiah Rodgers, Swoop. You got Darius goddamn Slide. What are you acting like we got nothing out there? I'm like we don't got a good defense, right? The defense is way better right there. If those 3 guys are healthy, you're going to be able to cover for a second. You're gonna be able to cover. Now you're saying that Devin White can't cover anybody, Swoop. That's where we're at right now. He can't cover anybody. Nicholas Morrow couldn't cover anybody. Zach Cunningham couldn't cover anybody. Okay, Devin White is way more ability to tackle somebody than those 2 guys do. All right, and cover a little bit. And so does Nakobe Dean. That's what he hung his hat on at Georgia. Was instinctive, smart, good cover guy. Now I can't tell you he's gonna stay healthy, Swoopy. But that's what you're worried about. You're going into the season like, oh, my God. Everybody's going to get the ball out of their hands quick. Okay? So is everybody else.
I think the first guy you mentioned, CJ, being here is key. That is – so CJ will – just like he did 2 years ago, he is going to make up for a lot of that stuff. All those shallow crosses, all those stuff into that robber area. If he plays robber, my God, he will wreak havoc. That's what he did 2 years ago. So that's why it was – that signing, I know we haven't really given out grades, but like if I'm going to grade the signing of CJ back here, I'm giving that an A, okay? Because I don't care about the contract. You're talking about a guy who fit this team, who loved being part of this team, and is exactly what the type of safety that Fangio needs. A guy that comes down, plays in the slot, can play up back, is a ball hawk. He has that mentality. I mean, like he was the only defensive player that showed up in the Super Bowl. All right, it was only CJ. He's the one player that had a good performance in the Super Bowl on the defensive side.
And he tackles, Chucks.
Yeah,
he wants to tackle. Like that's the key. He wants. Brink said it on Friday's show. He said, like I didn't agree with the diva part, even though he may have diva in him, but I agree with what he was saying. That like you need those types of personalities on your defense, and I couldn't agree with that more. Like, I'm saying the exact same thing. You need some swagger. You need some guys who think their shit don't stink and they want to rough you up on Sundays. This ain't flag football. So you went out and addressed that in the middle of your defense. Devin White wants to hit everything. Say whatever you want about him. He wants to hit everything. Nakobe, we don't know about yet, but Devin does, and CJ we know does. So we're already better. Like I don't know. I see people giving us like a B and a B minus, and then you got Chrome clamoring for goddamn Justin Fields, and anybody else who's clamoring for Justin Fields who stinks too. And if we got the Justin Fields, we'll see how bad he stinks. So we got to stop in this city and get away from even like I didn't even post about Mason Rudolph, same guy, Kenny Pickett. I didn't even post about him. It's not even post worthy, right? It's only purse worthy to a dryer sheets that even want to talk about a backup quarterback. Because if we get there, we got a problem.
We'll end on this real quick. What in the world are you smoking, Damien? where you put Miles Sanders and Saquon Barkley in the same
Oh.
sentence.
I'm not even. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's
brutal.
I'm not.
Speaking
even,
of Saquon, Brinks, Pete, Chucks, Chrome, all you guys, Chrome. Before we get out of here, I brought up last night that I think in this offense he could have an MVP type season if he's healthy. Like that's how electric he could be. He could be in that CMC on steroids type conversation because I think he's even more explosive in a way. They're both like very similar. I don't think people talk about it enough. They're very similar in what they're able to do.
He's even more explosive than he has more home run than CMC though. Like
I think so too.
Straight away speed, he's faster.
Yes. Yeah.
And like top 5 finish.
The only thing was I already bet it on DraftKings that Saquon Barkley for MVP and
that's all my money.
I think dude, he's like 150 to 1 to win MVP.
I'll bet him offensive player of the year. Yeah, I'll bet.
Why not? That's only 20 to 1 though. You know, that doesn't really get my dick hard like the MVP. Odds, you know. Yeah, I'm a big game. But I mean, you made the splash with Saquon.
Right.
You know, you went out your little comfort zone with Saquon. Now you got to use Saquon. I said it on Friday and I said it last week. The first time the Eagles lose a football game next season and Saquon Barkley has 7 carries, I'm going to freak out.
Yep. But like, this is what I want you to. He's not going to have 7 carries. He's not going to have 7 carries. But
are you sure?
I'm pretty sure about that. I'm pretty confident to say that. What I will say is he might not have the 25 a game that some people might want. I need him around 15 up. If you got 15 up, and then because I don't expect him, he ain't a one-trick pony. This is the advantage of Saquon. You're not predictable anymore. You're not predictable. Nobody knows when you're passing, running, etc. Because he can do everything you want out of a 3-down back. That's why you spend money on 3-down backs. So to me, you know, if he's got 15 carries and he's got another, 5, 6, 7 in the air, I got him enough touches. Can I get him in the 20s touch wise? Total touches in a football game, and I think you're doing it the right way. I'm not as worried about the carries as much as the touches. Do I want him at 10? No. I'll punch somebody in the face. Right, but to Brinks' point. But I would rather him, 15 up. I'm good.
I think you've got to look at the fact that like the Eagles and a lot of people have said this. Greg Cosell, one of the people he's one of my people I've idolized when it comes to analysis. Like he even said this going against the grain. He would be shocked if Saquon wasn't a staple, a focal point of the offense every week when it comes to because like when we had guys like Miles and Swift, who I love, like they're not like the tier of AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, right? Like we can agree, like AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, they're like elite tiers of wide receivers. Got it. You can argue he's a top 3 tight end, like around there, right? So, but the Swift is not part of that conversation. He's like a tier 2, tier 3 running back. But with Saquon, he's a tier 1. He's the type of guy you go in and defenses are like, we need to stop Saquon. So you have to be able to be a focal point. And the other point you made, Tom, like you predict a CMC type of thing. I'm pretty sure the Eagles do as well. And this is why I've said, like, I understand, like, to go against this whole narrative, like, oh, don't pay running backs, they're all the same. They're not all the same. All the Jags out there, all the ordinary guys, they're all the same. But when you have an elite talent, there is a difference between the numbers that Miles Sanders and DeAndre Swift put up. They put up what, 1,100, 1,200 yards or something like that, right? And everyone's like, oh, just get anyone and you can plug and play. They give you the same production. No, an elite running back like Saquon will give you 2,000 yards from scrimmage. That is the difference between Saquon and guys like Swift and Miles, is that extra tier. So
he usually does, Swoop.
Yep.
He usually does. He's only usually wrong on a couple things. But
this allows, he really whips, right?
Signing Saquon allows AJ Brown to miss a game or two. And now you're not concerned.
Yes.
Yeah, it's common sense, right? Because, like, who are you game planning for, Pete?
Nobody.
You gonna load the box up?
You load the box up on play action all day. I hope, for the love of God, we see a post route this year. Can we get some post routes?
Please.
Can a quarterback throw it?
Hopefully he has time. This is where right now, like, hey, if I'm number one, my bank account look right, my offense look right, it's all on me. You keep saying let the main thing be the main thing. We even heard Saquon say it in his press conference, right? You heard Jalen say all the time, let the main thing be the main. Well, main thing right now, player, is your job did not get any harder for you this year at all. If anything, it got easier.
It did though.
I mean, you got Kelsey. You get rid of Kelsey.
No. All eyeballs are on him.
But I'm talking about as far as what he had to face in defenses wise. He's going to see lighter defenses. Now, everything else outside of it and the aura he's going to feel and the energy he's going to feel from around the fan base, yeah, all eyeballs are on you. Everybody's looking at you because it's like, hey, Howie did it. Like, we've been clamoring for a running back to be this type of guy. You got it now. You got the juice. What you going to do with it? You going to make sour lemonade? Or you going to make lemon martinis? What are you going to do? You making lemon drops? Whatever they call them shots.
All right, lemon drop. Is he going to have a bounce back year?
That's on him. It's up to him. Isn't there a potential out at some point on his contract
this year?
Or is it after this year?
You know when the out was? The out was when you shouldn't have signed him last year. But I got crushed for it.
You'll never get the just due for that like you should.
I don't want it. That's the thing. I didn't want it. If we're businessmen, we're businessmen. You had one great year. So run it back. Show me it again, and I'll unload the brink truck for you. Now I get the other side of it where you're pressured into doing it right then and there too. So there's two sides of it. You know what I mean?
The potential out, real quick, Pete. The potential out is in 2028.
Oh my God, we're done. We're done. This is such a big year. I'm already sweating over here. I'm sweating. I believe he's gonna have a bounce back to my question. I just think he's got too much toughness to him, but he's got the talent.
What's a bounce back?
I mean, right here, right?
Like what's a bounce back in your opinion?
Not less
MVP conversation.
10 interceptions, 10 turnovers.
Like you need to be in the MVP conversation. You listen, Brinks. You put me and you out there. I don't know how you're throwing it nowadays, but I feel like if I suited up with that talent, I'd be like, yo, just put me in the conversation right now. I might not be in it at the end of the year, but throw my name in that hat on who I'm playing with. There isn't a better situation in the National Football League than Jalen Hurts has here with this firepower. There is not. And if you really want to run the RPO like you should, like I demanded last year that you got away from, now's the time. With those two guys in the backfield, now is the time. Because stop somebody. The linebacker freeze for a minute. See you. That's what it should be. Should have been last year with DeAndre. It's that same premise. Run the damn football with him. Because I'm going to riddle everybody this. It ain't drop back 35 times and beat you. That's not how he's built. So why are we trying to fit him into something he ain't?
Look at that.
Right? Why are we trying to fit? I'm sorry to keep this going longer. Now you guys got me fired up.
No, you're good.
Right? But like, why are we trying to fit him into something he's not? Now he's a 3-step drop go. Now that's who we going to make him into 3 steps and go. Sure, you want to develop him into that. But why are we taking away his biggest skill unless he was hurt?
Yep.
So if he's hurt, somebody tell me. And I won't rant about it. And I better see the damn RPO from game one to the end of the damn year. Because you don't go out and sign Saquon Barkley and not have the ability to put in the belly for a second and decide what you're going to do.
No, because particularly with that personnel, I mean,
better
that's
than San Fran.
The dangerous of an RPO as you'll ever get. Because, I mean, you talk about ultimate threats. Yeah. You know, whether you hand the ball off, pull the ball back, take off yourself, play action, whatever you end up doing out of the RPO. I mean, the amount of weapons and what Saquon does better than the last couple of backs we've had back there, feature backs. And I like Swift a lot. And you know, when Miles was healthy, he was very productive. Nobody is Saquon Barkley. And it's not even close.
Yeah, it's not even close.
Chuck, so those numbers down this year too? Like, was the RPO down from 2022 inside this offense? Yes.
I don't know. I don't know those numbers. I can get them.
It's no biggie. I just want to make sure my eyes aren't,
Your eyes are fine. Your eyes are fine.
Going off of what we saw, yeah. I mean, it looked like. I think another thing, real quick, before we head off, is like that. Your point about RPO is so crucial, and like the other thing is people are saying like, oh, you don't know about the O line because Jason Kelsey's gone. Like, I get that, but the thing is, one, we're still going to have like a top 10 O line at worst. We still have studs. And two, that's why you sign a Saquon, because when the blocking isn't there and it breaks down, you need someone who can create like Saquon. So that's why it's important.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, guys, this was a good little show here. A little extra bonus time. The fam out there loved it. So, I mean, I have to say thank you to all you guys, all your comments, questions, whether it was for us, for Les, for Big Dad here. Y'all were like Don I think put out there. There you go. Don, there's the number. RPO was 46% less or something close to that. That's a lot, by the way.
A whole lot.
That's fireable.
No bubble.
I should have said something to him. I should have said something to his ass this winter. I seen his ass like 5 times this winter, and I don't say a damn word about it to him.
That's
a do better too. You know, I seen a bunch of. I shook his hand 5 times this winter. How about one time, Tom, stop in and say, "Yo, Nick, RPO, we're gonna bring that back or what?" You know what I mean? I should have planted it. It's on me.
Thank you guys again for everything tonight. Thanks, Tom, for hopping on. To Les for hopping on. Rob, Pete, Chucks, as always, and myself. Make sure you guys stop by Baggio's, get your 10% off. And stop by Meanie Mania. I'll give you some more information on that coming up. A2D sponsoring Meanie Mania in Philadelphia, WrestleMania weekend. It's going to be a good time at McCusker's Tavern. But for myself and the boys here and everybody at A2D, go Birds. Have a great weekend. Let's go.